1, 2, 3, 4.
Mrs. and a mic, you don't need much more.
4 misses.
Come on.
4 misses.
Come on.
5, 6, 7, 8.
It's your favorite podcast, so save the date.
4 misses.
Come on.
4 misses.
Come on. 4 misses in a mic. Come on. 4 misses in a mic. Come on.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the 4 Mrs. and a Mic podcast. This is CJ.
It's L.
And Bree.
Hi.
So today we have a really special guest to talk to you guys on a really special episode. Today we're going to discuss how the law works within your marriage. And our special guest is my mommy.
Hi, Bree's mom.
Hi guys, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. She's an expert in the marriage law sector. She's been practicing for 85 years? I'm kidding. 22 years. She shot me a look, y'all. So I guess we can just dive right in it. CJ, you want to go first? Or actually, no, I want to go first because the first thing we're talking about, I think, is very important to me because I have full intentions on winning the Mega Millions or the Powerball. I haven't decided which one in a soon time. So I just need to know, Mom, are lottery winnings community property?
Okay, before I answer any of your questions, I will say first that these answers are not specific to any individual circumstance or case that I may encounter, I've handled, or that I've heard of. Just as a confidentiality disclaimer. To respond to your question, lottery winnings are not community property.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So you're saying it's all mine?
Well, one would not want to treat that as all of your winnings if you are married. But lottery winnings have caused a lot of divorces because they are, in fact, the gist of most financial arguments or problems in marriages. Mm-hmm. They're not community property. However, you can make an argument that it is income. Mm-hmm. And if you do not have a prenuptial agreement, all income made or generated or given or earned during the course of your marriage is community property. So an argument can be made for that, but generally lottery winnings are not community property.
So the both of you need to sign the back of that lottery ticket is what you're saying. My name, Mr. CJ, better be on the back of that ticket.
That's right, Mrs. CJ. I would sign that ticket along with Mr. CJ.
Okay.
I will tell you to do that.
Okay.
Okay, that's good to know, I guess. You hear that, babe? I'm not gonna leave you with the winnings.
Okay, our next question is, can I testify against my husband?
Can you testify against your husband? It depends on what circumstances you're testifying in. If it is a criminal matter, and God forbid, your husband has done something criminal, illegal, etc., you may be forced to testify against your husband, but technically they can't force you to testify against your husband because you all are married. But if it's in your best interest, and you know if you don't testify and charges are coming down the line, you may want to seek a divorce attorney and try to look at some of your rights. But no one can testify against the spouse. You can only sue your spouse for a divorce.
Which brought up another question, because I think I was wondering if it was possible to sue my husband in general, or specifically if I feel like he's misusing our money.
You'd have to file for divorce.
Really? So you cannot sue your spouse?
You cannot sue your spouse, no.
So I gotta divorce you, then sue you, and then we can get back together?
No, the divorce is the lawsuit. So within that divorce, there are a number of ancillary issues that can be addressed, and financial mismanagement would be one of them.
So if I don't agree with how he's spending our money and we get divorced, I can like have the judge make him pay me some of that back?
You can request that the judge pay you some of that back. And should you provide the judge with significant evidence, the judge may award you some of that money back.
Okay.
So I guess the key thing here, though, is any legal action that you wish to pursue against your husband has to happen when he's no longer your husband.
Well, the initial divorce is a legal action. That phase is a legal action.
Okay.
Once you're divorced, then you can sue him for whatever.
But everything.
You can't. You cannot sue him for a matter that should have been handled during the divorce proceedings.
Okay.
Gotcha.
You can't do that.
Okay.
So, Ms. Bree, it sounds like a lot of things that you would sue him for would be handled during the divorce.
Correct. You hear that, Mr. Bree? No, I'm kidding. But I do have another question. So, do I have to pay my husband's child support for like his kids that we don't have together?
No. Child support is the obligation of the parent that is the biological parent of that child. If that parent is in a subsequent relationship or marriage, that other party, the other woman or the other man to that relationship does not pay child support for that other person's child. However, if you are self-employed and you testify or you present evidence to the court indicating that part of your expenses or obligations within the home that you share with someone else, some other adult, is paid for by the other adult, you bring that other adult's income into question, and there may be something that the court can do as it relates to not making that person pay child support, but definitely making you pay the child support you're supposed to, as opposed to child support you're trying not to pay. Meaning, if you are self-employed and you're saying that my wife pays the mortgage and you're testifying or presenting this in documents, well, that amount will be definitely added to your income because she's not supposed to pay all the bills. You're supposed to pay some of the bills. And you can't use that as an excuse to claim that you can't pay child support. He or she may be called to testify and their income may be at issue, especially if the income is significant and that person also is self-employed.
That's good to know. Elle, you want to take the next one?
Okay. Do I have to return the engagement ring if we break off the engagement?
The states are different with that. Some states categorize the engagement ring as a promise in a contract. And once the contract is not fulfilled, all items presented as fulfillment of the contract should be returned to the original purchaser.
Right.
Some states look at it as an engagement ring as a gift.
Okay.
If you get engaged on your birthday, you have an argument that it's a gift.
Right.
If you get engaged on Valentine's Day, you have an argument that it's a gift.
Right.
What about Mother's Day? I got engaged on Mother's Day.
Were you the mother of his child at the time?
I was the mother of his dog.
No.
And is it the same with divorce? Do you have to give the engagement ring back after divorce?
No, generally you don't give the rings back after divorce.
Okay.
No. But if there were significant jewelry purchased after you all were married, and the because it's significant, the value of it can be placed into the community descriptive list, and you can he can get an offset credit for those jewelry.
I just want to point out that significant does not mean K Jewelers Midnight Special. So if you are one of the people that didn't listen to me on that $75 engagement ring, you are out of luck. Guess what? I mean, you keep it, ain't worth much. There you go. That was brief for everybody who didn't know.
As you knocked over the microphone,
Because it was imperative that I said this.
to our listeners. And this is why you should have listened to me when I told y'all, don't say yes to a $75 engagement ring.
That's all.
Okay.
DJ, you got the next one?
All right. So the next question. No, why I gotta have this question?
Oh, I'll ask.
I'll ask it. Goodness.
Okay.
Okay. Can my husband divorce me for not having sex with him?
Yes, your husband can divorce you for not having sex with him.
What?
Really?
Yes.
Man.
Sex
Wow.
is an integral and vital part of a marriage. In addition to love, support, fidelity, trust, communication, etc., and being free from violence and having peace and harmony in your home. Sex is a part of it. If you do not have sex with your husband, he can divorce you.
Now, I have a follow-up question. Does the frequency come into play? Or is it just, why are you laughing? Or is it just in general, yes or no? Because what if it's just not as often as maybe he or she, because it could be the wife's not sleeping with the husband. Does that matter? The frequency, or is it just flat out, we haven't done it in X amount of days, and so I'm ready to file?
I don't think you can file for divorce because you're having sex infrequently. It's the lack of sex that triggers your ability to file for divorce based on that issue. However, keep in mind that Louisiana is a no-fault divorce state. So that means you technically do not have to have a reason for filing for a divorce. But because it is a no-fault divorce state, that does not mean that fault is not an issue in subsequent ancillary matters for you during your divorce. Example, spousal support. If it is found that you refused or did not have sex with your husband during the course of the marriage, you're at fault with the breakup of the marriage, and you may not be entitled to get spousal support.
Oh. Oh.
You mean that might mess up my money? What? So if it's just like a birthday's anniversary type thing, you might want to consider kicking it up a notch. Oh, man.
Well, it would boil down to what is the court's interpretation of lack of sex.
Right.
Lack
right.
of sex generally means no sex. So if you're having it on a birthday, on a holiday or whatever, that's technically still sex.
Right.
Okay. So this leads into the next one. Let's say my husband works on my last nerve and I don't want to still be married to him, but he and I are still sleeping together. Can I divorce him?
Again, Louisiana is a no-fault divorce state. If you feel as though emotionally and mentally this is wearing you down, then yes, you can divorce him, whether you're having sex or not.
Okay, so next question. Can I sue my husband's mistress for gifts and property he bought her with our money?
So you mean if she got the Chanel bag?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
I want to know if I can sue her for the Chanel. It's important that I know the answer to these questions. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, you can sue your husband's mistress prior to a divorce proceeding or thereafter. However, the value of what she received, if you win that lawsuit, you would only receive one half of that value because half of whatever she received was his community portion and the other half was your community portion. So if she received the bag for $3,000, you would only be entitled to $1,500 should you win that lawsuit.
Okay, but what if they had a summer house in the Hamptons? Can I just make a move out?
Who owns the house?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess she and he, well, depends on how stupid your husband is and how good of a mistress she is, I suppose. I mean, think about it, because sometimes they gift these things as in, here's the keys, and sometimes they gift these things as in, here's the deed. So, I mean, I guess it depends on how deep was the love between them.
Well, the house issue the house issue is based on who owns the house. If it's a house that your husband bought with this woman with community money, technically, the court would have to decide if she put money in the house, what portion would go to her. But technically, that house is a community house belonging to the husband and the wife. If she put no money, it belongs to the husband and the wife exclusively because that was community money. If he bought it in conjunction with her and she put money in, then she would have to do a separate suit to recoup that money should the court give the house to the husband and wife in community.
So
I'm saying do not buy a house with a mistress if you're married.
That's a great idea. Or just don't have a mistress.
That's an even better idea.
that goes a long way, but unfortunately, it still hasn't come to fruition with a lot of people.
Right. Okay. I'm in business with my family and newly engaged fiance. They want me to get a prenup, but he and I feel like that's planning for the demise of our relationship. What should I do?
Get a prenuptial agreement, please.
Oh.
I tell everyone, and I've also told Miss Bree, mad day comes one day for everyone. And when mad day comes, unfortunately, emotions take over from reason, rationale, and logic. And people will do and say things to hurt, to cause stress, to disrupt peace, and in some instances to abuse the other party. So if there's a prenuptial agreement, everything is spelled out. Who gets what? What our income remains separate. There is no community regime, which is created when you're married. There's no community property. What I make is mine. What he makes is his, et cetera, et cetera. If you're in business with your family, your fiance and yourself, should you all get married subsequently and thereafter divorce, then that business is owned the third, and the third.
Mm-hmm.
It is not community property. It's all separate property. Mm-hmm. And again, another thing you should know as a caveat, separate property, in the event of the death of the husband or the wife, goes straight to the children. It is not community property. It goes straight to the children, unless there's a will indicating where else it should go. Mm-hmm. And that will has to take into the fact that Louisiana has forced heirship laws. That's another segment of law.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But just to break it down, that means that to a certain age, yes, a biological heir is automatically entitled to a portion of the estate, correct?
Yes, 24 years or older or younger. 24 years or younger. Whether or not you've made a will, or if you've did make a will and did not make provisions for that child is legally entitled to 1/4 if it's one child and 1/2 if it's two or more children. Those children are legally entitled to a share of that parent's estate. No one can take it away from them. No one can will it away. Mm. No one can give it away. They are entitled to it.
It's very interesting. Okay, another question we have. My fiance and I live together, but his baby's mother doesn't like me. She told him he can't have the kids around me, so she stopped letting them come over. Should I move out?
And break off the
engagement?
I wouldn't tell you to break off your engagement. If she lets them come, previously let them go to the father's home without a court order, I would tell the father to go to court, file a petition for custody and visitation. You don't want necessarily to take custody away from the mom, but you always reach for a little higher than you need to have some bargaining space. Mm-hmm. You want your visitation. And you can inform the court there, I'm engaged, my fiance lives with me. Most courts will not find anything wrong with that. Mm-hmm. She and the baby's mother cannot force the man to make the fiance leave the home.
So what if she's like using the kids as like a pawn, basically? Like, I can't make her get out, but you can't have your kids. Then what?
You mean like what every baby's mama's doing around? this state, this city, this country, they all do that.
Unfortunately.
The father would just go to court so that you can obtain your proper rights, your legal protective visits with the children and senior children, even if you have to set up a specific day and time to the hour and a minute, if necessary, depending on what kind of relationship you have with the children's mother.
So you're basically saying get a lawyer.
Get a lawyer, then go to court.
And if you'd like to retain the services... No, I'm just actually, no, I'm not kidding. If you would like to retain the services of my mother, who is practicing law, civil law, criminal law, domestic law, personal injury, all the laws in the state of Louisiana, just email us at 4mrsandamike@gmail.com and we will get you hooked up with her information. Obviously, she knows her stuff. There you go. So you said you tell everyone to get a prenup, but what if like I'm broke and he's broke when we get married?
Get a prenuptial agreement. Because remember those lottery winnings?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Get a prenuptial agreement. At the time you get married, it doesn't matter what your financial status is. Financial statuses change all the time. And you could, through your efforts of being an entrepreneur, an inventor, or partnership in a business, or just a hard worker,
Or the next Beyonce.
obtain a large amount of money.
Mama laughed at me.
Obtain a large amount of money during the course of the marriage. And you may be the only person that did that during the course of the marriage. Mm-hmm. And you may feel as though all of that money belonged to you because you were the only one working, or you were the only one hustling to do that.
She wasn't with me in the gym.
But it's still community property.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever he or she purchases with that large sum of money that only that person worked for is still community property, still community income. So I would tell you, if you have a penny over here and he has a dime over there, get a prenuptial agreement. This is the year 2019, and I think that everyone should have a prenuptial agreement. Mm-hmm. You can also do an nuptial agreement if you're married. However, you'd have to get the court's approval.
Now explain what an antenuptial agreement is, because I haven't ever heard of that.
Similar to post. Once you're married, once the nuptials have been obtained, that means once you're married, then you can get an agreement that separates your community, not separates, but declares that you do not want to be in a community regime. You want to have everything separate. It's just that you're doing it after you're married, and you would have to seek the court's approval.
Okay. That's good to know.
So is there anything that a husband or a wife should do, any research they should do legally if they're getting remarried? So like if it's your first marriage and you do things like you get prenups and you buy a house together and you have these legal documents that we have done with our spouses, should something happen and we get divorced and we get remarried, what should we do this time around to protect ourselves in this marriage, but also from whatever our spouse did legally in their first marriage?
Well, obviously, you should conclude your divorce in the first marriage. You should partition the community from the first marriage. That means divide the community property.
Okay.
You should close out that case significantly. However, if you have children, minor children from the first marriage, of course, you're going to have to make provisions for them in the new marriage. There will be child support. There will be visitations and custody issues. Also, I suggest that you make a will. When you're married to the second person, make a will to make legal provisions for your children in the event of your death. Because although you still have the children, and they may be beyond the age of forced heirship. Mm-hmm. They may be 25 or 24 in a day or something. The father dies. If he has made a will and left what he wants to leave to his children, that's fine. If he has not made a will and did not make any specifications, half of what he bought with the second wife, if he bought it without a prenuptial agreement, is community property. So now you've got the second wife and the children from the first marriage in partnership as owning property or bank accounts or whatever. And you try to avoid that because, of course, you're going to have the influence of the first wife in the ears of the children,
Right.
making the second wife's life miserable.
Right.
But remember, with succession laws, if the father and the second wife were married at the time of his death, they were still married and had community property together. When he died, the children cannot put the second wife out of the house. The children will become what are known as naked owners of the property.
Naked owners?
Naked owners of the property. The second wife will have legal usufruct of the property, meaning she can use it, she can possess it, she can rent it out. She just cannot sell it because it does not belong just to her. But she can use it, and the children cannot put her out. She can also talk to the children in respects to trying to buy their interest out of the property so that she will have a peaceful possession of the property.
Right. And if she does decide to sell it, the kids, one, they'd have to agree to the sale, and then they would get profits from the sale if they agree to it.
They would have to agree to the sale. They would have to enter into a contract with the second wife, with the agents. They would and the proceeds would have to be split in half, minus the expenses associated with maintaining the property if the second wife had expenses related to that.
Right. So it sounds a little trickier in a second marriage than it would be in a first marriage in terms of what legal work needs to be, like legal documents need to be obtained.
When you're in a second marriage, you need to make sure that insurance policy you signed and put the first wife as a beneficiary, put the second wife as a beneficiary. You need to make sure your new retirement documents and everything, your old retirement documents and programs have been closed down and settled, and that whatever happens during the second marriage clearly has the second wife's name on it. And there's no confusion about who gets or who's entitled to it. Because I'm sure 2 women have gone to Social Security to collect on the dead husband's Social Security benefits from the first wife and the second wife.
Right.
And in that case, I mean, whoever's not on the paperwork is stuck out, right?
Whoever's not on the paperwork for the retirement portion, but Social Security makes a determination. Well, first you prove that you were married at some point in time. You have to present divorce papers. That's the first wife. The second wife will have to prove that she was married at some point in time, and a death certificate for the husband. And it depends on how long each one was married to the man, because it is generally, I'm sorry for stuttering, it is generally 10 years.
This is like, why do fools fall in love?
Right.
That Frankie Lyman story. See?
It's a lot involved. So I guess for our listeners, just in terms of basic legal documents that they should have in a marriage, what are the basic documents you suggest every married couple should have?
She's gonna say prenup.
Prenup.
Well, that's how you started off, right?
Started with a prenup. And maybe you can have a conversation with your fiance before you get married as to what happens to the engagement ring, if it is of a significant value.
Not the K Jewelers midnight special. You could keep that. Nobody looking for it.
There might be some significant sentimental value to this ring.
You might have sentimental value, but ain't gonna get you nothing at the pawn shop.
The other documents that you should have, you should go to the bank. Even though you all may have a prenuptial agreement, you may want to, if you decide to have a joint account, you can still have a joint account if you have a prenuptial agreement, but there has to be a certain way it's worded. If it's Jane Doe and Bobby Doe, that means when either one of those people die, or if a divorce comes, they're entitled to half.
Okay.
But if it's Jane Doe or Bobby Doe, if either one of those people die or someone files for a divorce, it's whoever gets to the bank first.
Oh.
Because it's or.
Right.
That means I'm saying you could take all of the money or I can take all of the
Right.
money. If it's and, I'm saying you can take half of the money or I can take half of the money.
Right.
That's why if you put an or there, that means that person can go to the bank and take all the proceeds in that bank account. So you need to know exactly what you're doing when you're getting married. Are you sure you want him on your savings account as an or if you have $22,000 in savings and he's bringing $5 to the table?
Right.
You may want to rethink that.
Right.
Well, why don't you just say, why don't you open your own savings and I'll open my own savings, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Okay.
So you say prenup, figure out the bank situation, and then would you say make a will?
Absolutely. Make a will. Even if you have nothing to leave. If you want it all to go to your wife, fine. If you want it all to go to your kids, fine. If you want it to go to your mom, your sister, your brother, make a will. Also, regarding documents, you need to also, as I indicated about the bank statements, figure out how you want to deal with land purchases. The land purchases are going to be just in one person's name. Even if you have a prenuptial agreement, that's that person's separate property. But if you have a prenuptial agreement and you put both names on that document, it's not community property. You all are just co-owners in civil.
Okay.
So you have to make some arrangements for that.
Right.
And if you have children from a first marriage or first relationship, some people have children from 2 or 3 past relationships. Some children are older, some children are younger. And when daddy died, the second or third wife, she got the blues because the children wanted their share. I've heard about situations where there were fights at funerals.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I've heard that
So
too.
it's very important to have all of your documents there together. Keep your marriage license, your birth certificates, your wills, your prenuptial agreements, your insurance papers, any other documents indicating ownership or possession of different things, your bank statements. Make that very clear. Very clear.
You brought up, I'm sorry to cut you off. You brought up insurance papers, and people need to know that just because your wife changed doesn't necessarily mean the beneficiary changed.
No, that's correct. You have to physically contact someone or go to your insurance agent's office and say, I want to change my beneficiary on this life insurance policy that I own and I'm paying for from Susie to Jenny. I want Jenny to get everything, because if you forget and you die before that paperwork is changed, Jenny and the man may have been married for 20 years. But Susie still has an insurance policy on him for $250,000. And guess who gets all of the money? Susie.
Right.
And she determines whether or not she pays for the burial of the man or not. She gets all of the insurance money because Louisiana's law is known as sui generis. That means whomever is the beneficiary on an insurance policy is the sole and only person
Who gets
eligible to get that money.
Right. So I have a question, because you brought up kids and like previous relationships. So if I have kids from a previous relationship and I get married, does there need to be some legal documentation in terms of guardianship of my kids? So for instance, if something happens at school, my husband can't go down to the school and say I'm his mom's husband because he has no legal guardianship over my kids, correct?
He doesn't have legal guardianship over your kids, but you can put his name down as a party, a party to pick up the children as their stepfather. Stepfather. He can pick them up from school as long as he's listed on the list of people who can pick up your children from school or any event of an emergency. Does the father still exist for the children? Is he around?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you have a conversation with the father. If you have somewhat of an amicable relationship, have that conversation. Say, you work, I work. James works also, but sometimes James's schedule is flexible.
Right.
Any event that little Johnny falls or something, can James pick him up? Just have that conversation.
Right.
I think that's a really mature way of handling it, having that conversation and just, say, are you okay with that, in this event, as opposed to just taking it upon yourself to do it without consulting the other parent. I'm a firm believer that sometimes just presenting things to the other party goes a long way into getting them on your side, as opposed to just making that decision without them.
Yeah,
Without
absolutely.
them, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I think a lot of things could be solved by having mature conversations with the co-parents.
Right.
As opposed to just, I'm going to go behind your back and do this because this is what I want. And I don't care if you don't like it. Sue me,
Right.
It's about mutual respect, respecting that a father and a mother have equal rights to the children. A father and a mother have equal rights to indicate or say where the child goes to school, what pediatrician the child will see, what activities the child participate in, where the child lives, etc., etc. No one parent has the exclusive right to make those decisions. And it is important that there is ample communication. And if you cannot converse with the other party, then that's where the court systems come in. I'd invite all of you all to sit down in any domestic court in any state in the United States of America and to listen to the scenarios about the different situations and things that come up with children getting injured while in the presence of another parent, and the other parent, the other parents not being informed, children running away from that parent and the other parent not being informed. It's just a lot. And in order to protect yourself, document. Do a paper trail on every aspect of your life.
I have a scenario. Let's say I have a little girl and she's got beautiful natural hair and she goes to spend the weekend with her daddy. And her daddy's girlfriend says, "Ooh, that's some nappy hair you got," and cuts it off. Can I have her arrested? I want to.
Is that the father's girlfriend?
Yes, not wife.
Technically, you could, because that's an assault. That's a battery on that child. She hadn't. Did the father give her permission to do it?
He hasn't said anything on the subject. Me and her just going at it.
Well, bring it to the district attorney and see what happens.
Okay. So keep your hands off them kids. It ain't yours. That was my takeaway. Was that your takeaway? What about you, Ms. L?
All right. So we've got plenty of legal documents. If there are kids from a previous relationship, there needs to be a lot of conversations had to keep things from getting messy and going to the courts. Anything else I missed? Oh, second marriages. There needs to be knowledge of what happened in the first marriage and then making sure everything was changed over to the new wife or husband as the beneficiary. Did I miss anything?
This is one thing I'd like to add while you're thinking about what you've missed. Not any particular case of mine or not any particular person that I'm aware of, but I've had knowledge that in a marriage, the wife had absolutely no knowledge of how much the husband made,
Yeah.
how much his checks were at payday, what bank he used to deposit his checks, or how much money he had at the time that she was seeking a divorce. And this, I would not be able to believe this, that a person, an intelligent person, or even a person that's not intelligent, I'm sorry, will be married to someone and allow something so serious as your finances to be held in secret or not shared with the other spouse.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we touched on this a little bit on our finances episode about like, even if you don't feel like you need to or want to be in control, you have to be aware
Right.
of
Right.
what everything is and where
Like
everything
even
is.
if you're completely separate, you still have to know
Exactly.
what
And I
the
think
other person has.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, Mom, but I think just because our finances aren't joined doesn't mean that both parties shouldn't have access should they need it in a marriage. I'm not talking about we're not talking about dating situations right now. Like, we're talking strictly marriage, guys. Because there's hoops you may have to jump through to access your spouse's money should that person die, unfortunately, or something like that, if you don't already have access, even if you guys never joined finances.
One of those hoops may be the children from a previous relationship.
Right.
Because when he dies, they get his separate property.
Right.
They get his property with and if that's the wife and her name is not on that bank account and never was on that bank account, the children's attorney can make an argument that it's separate property. She'd have to petition the court for half of that money, informing the court and proving that he used community money to put into that account.
Right.
That sounds like
that's a process.
Right. Yeah. Right. So be informed.
Yes.
About everything.
Would you agree?
Absolutely. Do not be shy to talk about the difficult subjects with your boyfriend, your fiance, or soon-to-be husband, your husband. Don't be shy to talk about the difficult things, because by talking about the difficult things before you get married, it may bring out some concerns that you have that may make you think, wait a minute, maybe I should do this with this person because she sounds irresponsible with money or with credit or with just the normal way of dealing with responsible things in life.
Right.
So that may be a caveat to open some doors for you as it relates to, and then definitely if you have concerns about that, then you absolutely need that prenuptial agreement.
See, it came all full circle there, guys. Right back to the prenup. So get the prenup. The Fort Mrs. legal expert approved. Well, do we have any other questions?
I don't think.
I feel like we covered.
Yeah, I feel like we covered everything. Well, not everything, but
I'm more than happy to come back anytime you guys would like to ask me any other legal questions for your fans and your concerned listeners. I'm happy to help you in any way I can, because I think I'm an attorney that has a firm belief that when I sit across from one of my clients, I want that client to leave me educated. I don't want to hold back legal information to try to bolster that client hiring me. I'm going to tell you what you need, what your rights are, what should be done. It's up to you whether or not you hire an attorney or not.
Right.
But you're going to leave me educated.
Right.
I do not believe in keeping things in the dark, especially when our rights are concerned.
Right.
Ooh.
Right. Well, thank you.
Mom.
We appreciate
Thank you so much.
Hand
Thank you.
clap.
Thank you, Breeze Mom.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes. All right, guys. So we're going to move on to our listener question. And this question comes from Kelly in Houston. Hi, Kelly. Kelly says, when is it okay to introduce your kids or family to the guy you are dating? So I think
it's a tough one, because I feel like you kind of can't say anything that could be perceived as a general answer, because every single relationship is different. And I would be more willing to introduce somebody to my family than my kids, for sure.
So that's what I was going to say. It's different. It's not the same for family and kids.
Right.
For kids, for me, I would think that
Engaged.
you're not. So I don't know about engaged. I don't think it has to be
engaged.
that far along.
I do.
Because I also think that a man should know your kids or have established some type of relationship with your kids before they are asking you to marry them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I also don't think this is like somebody that you just met. This has to be a serious relationship. I would say almost to the point where you all are talking about marriage.
Yeah.
Because for me, I would need to know that this person is committed to me and is willing to commit to my kids and making this a long-term relationship.
Right. And you want to give yourself time to like suss out the red flags of the relationship that person has with your children.
Right.
You know, you definitely, if it seems like they're not a kid person, then that probably is not somebody you want to marry, but you need time to figure that out. However, you don't want to try to figure that out when you just started dating this person, because then you have the situation of, I'm introducing everybody I've just started dating to my kids.
Right.
And it can be confusing to the children, certainly.
Right.
And it's something we want to avoid. We don't want to give our kids, you know, revolving door images of relationships or anything like that.
Yeah, and the kids might get attached to somebody that you're not really attached to.
That too.
Right.
It's like, what happened to Uncle John? Uncle John not coming back no more. Don't ask.
Family is a little different, even though I think this is difficult because I think that there would be very few scenarios where you would bring the boyfriend around your family and your kids weren't there. But with family, they're not developing the same attachments that your kids are. So if it's like a picnic or something and you're bringing John, then if you're serious enough with John where you think he'll be around for a while and, you know, you're okay letting the family meet him, then that's fine.
Does it really even have to be that you're serious with John? I feel like you could bring a friend to the cookout and just be like, this is my friend Kevin. You know?
Yeah, but she's asking about boyfriend.
Right.
And I know for me, I never brought anybody around the family if I wasn't serious about him. One, because you're just not important enough to meet my family. But two, if I'm bringing you around my family, then I also value their input. And so now I'm saying this is serious. Get to know him. You know, how do you guys feel about him? Do you see something that I don't see because I'm so in love with this man type of thing? So yeah, for me, family, I have to at least be serious about this person.
So do you feel like bringing that person around your family is more for them to, like, I don't want to say judge, but kind of judge that person, but bringing them around your kids is more for you to judge that person in regards to your children? Like, it's more of like, y'all tell me about him versus I'm going to tell me about him.
No, because I don't even know.
Oh, I have to say this. We have to emphasize this enough. Like, don't just have any of your boyfriends alone with your children. Like,
right.
Seriously, like your boyfriend should not just be your babysitter just because he's your boyfriend.
Yeah.
You really have to know people before you let anyone around your children alone.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
Please,
So
of
like,
course, yeah.
like you can think we're crazy. We're taking too long to introduce them to the kids or whatever. That's fine. You want to introduce them sooner. That's, you know, your thing, but do not leave them alone with your children until you know that person inside and out and all around. Their background, their friends, their family, everything. You got to know this person before you think that that's a good idea to have your children around them alone. I just, like, we have to say that. But go ahead, CJ. What were you about to say?
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't know that I'm necessarily bringing my boyfriend around my family for them to judge him. For me, it's for them to get to know each other. It's a, you know, mutual thing. I just know that I also appreciate my family's input. And know that they have my best interest at heart. So if there's something they see that is a red flag, they would tell me.
So my family's real judgmental. So the people that I brought, and I didn't bring very many around, they were looking up and down with a fine-tooth comb. And as I'm saying this to you, my mother is sitting right next to me and she's agreeing because she knows. And it's not even just that, you guys, like, my husband got one of the best grillings from my best friend's mother. Like, like seriously, like you got to be able to withstand the heat in the kitchen when you come to my family. So you got to be somebody I think is worthy of that and that I think can handle that.
Right.
Because, you know, I mean, they care about me. And that's how your family's going to be. And your close friends, they're looking out for you. Right. So they're going to look at this person like, is this a good person for you? But as far as like that person and your children, I definitely think you should bring them around your family without your kids first, because again, like you were saying, they may see something that's a red flag and you don't want that to be a red flag that could have potentially compromised something with a relationship with that person and your children. You want the relationship that they have with your kids to be the best relationship it can be. Not like a parent, but like a parent. You get what I'm saying? Like, because hopefully your kids have two parents. They're just not together anymore. But this person's going to step in and assume a role of a parental figure, but still understand the boundary of like, oh, I'm not your dad. You have a dad, but I'm going to love you like you're my own. And, we're going to have this great bond, but I'm also going to, set boundaries. I'm going to, defer to your mom for discipline, and we're going to be on the united front and blah, 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 that kind of stuff,
Right.
And that can't happen overnight. But it certainly shouldn't happen with every other person you decide to kick it with, know? And even if it is just for a second or it's just, while they pick you up for a date, I don't think your kids should be introduced to like every guy you go out with. I just don't,
Right.
I think it sends confusing messages to children. And also, guys, something we like to do in the community. Every man you dating is not them baby's uncle. Don't be telling them children that's Uncle Johnny, that's Uncle Kevin, that's Uncle
That's
Malik.
very confusing.
Yes, especially when they have to do a family tree project in school. You will be embarrassed.
What about you, Miss L? What do you think?
I agree. I mean, I think it has to be, I think my answer would definitely be different in my early 20s than now. In my early 20s, I mean, if I was dating somebody and we were in a monogamous relationship, I would introduce them to my family. But now I think it would be even more serious than that, like moving towards engagement. Like then I would introduce them to my family and probably my kids after that. I don't have kids now, but I am pregnant. So
we didn't want to tell you guys. We wanted her to spill the beans, but our baby's coming.
But I think I would be, more reluctant to really wait to introduce them to my kids. So it would be, it would take longer for that, but it definitely would have to be before the engagement phase because like y'all said, I would want them to want to see how they are with with my kids and see, make sure my kids like them. Cause I mean, that would be a big deal if my
Right.
kids just absolutely don't like my, who I'm dating.
Right.
So,
And also, I think children can pick up on stuff, a lot easier than sometimes we can, especially if it's somebody we're dating, because we're looking at it through, love glasses and rosy colored
Right.
smooches glasses. The kids are looking at it like black and white, like I don't like her because she's kind of like this. And you're like, I never noticed that.
Right. Right.
So you listen to your children,
Right.
they see things you don't see sometimes.
Right. And I know people may have different answers because I do know people introduce their kids, extremely early in relationships. And I think at that point, that's up to the parents to make that judgment call. And I say parents because I do think both.
Yes, I agree.
Both
exactly what you're about
parents'
to say.
concerns need to be considered when you're introducing your kids to a new partner.
Yes.
I just know I'm extremely overprotective. Like, I struggle to find babysitters for my kids for date night.
Yes.
Let
Helicopter
alone,
mom.
introducing a new man into their life.
Right.
So,
Especially because your husband would probably threaten his life a lot. So even though he'd be your ex-husband, I'd imagine he'd still threaten their life a lot. So that's another thing. And I would even venture to say probably would introduce this person to my ex/father of my children before I introduce this person to my kids.
oh yeah.
I mean, I do know
absolutely.
people
think
who
that's
do
important.
that.
We can go out and have coffee and sit down so you can meet Joey and tell me what you think, blah, 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 blah. But just so
Right.
you know, I think he's a good person and this is serious.
Right.
And see what Malik has to say about Joey. I don't
Right.
come up with all these husband and boyfriend names.
I don't know.
Anyways.
All right. So, Kelly, we hope that was helpful. Again, like I said, I know for each person it's different and it would be a judgment call on your part, but that's how the four misses feel about that.
Yes. All right. Well, here's my favorite part of the episode. I feel like this one's from left field, but it's relevant to marriage and the law.
Okay.
You ready? Okay. Nobody now give you no break. Police now give you no break. Soldier now give you no break. Not even you injured now give you no break. Hey, hey. Bad boys, bad boys. What you got?
Okay.
Get it? The law.
I gotcha.
Gotcha.
Now, I'm not going to attempt that weird. No, that's how it
I
sounds.
was
But then
like,
you just
what?
attempted it.
Listen, okay, I need you to point that out. All right. The point is, and I did it just like the record. Did you hear it? It sounded just like the record. Anyways.
All right. Thanks, guys, for listening. If you would like to email, ask questions, if you had any more legal questions for Bree's mom, feel free to hit us up at 4mrsandamike@gmail.com. That's the number 4, mrsandamike@gmail.com. And you can also reach us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. This is CJ.
And Cece's not here. Aw. And it's L.
And Bree. Y'all be blessed.
Bye.